Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the man, the myth, the guy whose SPF on his sunscreen is baby oil, Karl Bryan. How you doing, Shoots?
Shoots. Nice. I'm doing good. That reminds me of, you ever seen the movie Heartbreak Kid?
Can't say I have.
Oh, you got to watch it. You will love it. If you like Ben Stiller,
Of course.
home run. But anyway,
Yeah.
so he gets newly married, kind of a funny dynamic. Anyways, I don't know. He ends up getting married in very short order because she's going to get shipped off to somewhere, and he gets married, which was all a big smokescreen, by the way. Turns out. Anyway, so they go straight to Mexico for the I think it's Cabo for their honeymoon, and she puts baby oil on, and she's bloody. He's like, baby, I don't think this is a good idea, and she's adamant, and on the story goes. So there you go. So
That reminds me of the Friends episode where Ross came in and he was fully tanned, and then Chandler and Monica are sitting there, and he goes, I went to that new that tanning place that your wife told me about. And Chandler goes, what place is that? The Sun? Anyways, like, oh my God, it's so good. So there you go. Well, there you go. Tanning Advice 101 with Karl Bryan this week, folks. What is the right prescription for you? Speaking of the Sun, and I believe it was down in the United Arab Emirates there, the whole Jake Paul thing. I didn't even know it was happening. I love or hate Jake Paul. This dude just keeps making money off of every single fight. But he lost to Tommy Fury. I don't know if anybody's even knowing about this or caring about this. But I'm sure if anyone has an opinion, it's you, Big Shoots. What are your thoughts on that whole thing?
So my opinion on Jake Paul, Tommy Fury fight, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Like I'm curious because, much like yourself, a YouTube sensation, I'd like to know your thoughts.
Now that was funny. So I did watch it, and I think a few others did, by the way. I think he managed. I think he had to give away his purse because he lost. But I actually watched it with Gary Lightbourne. He's the guy who I box with every morning at 8:30, who, by the way, fought Tyson, Holyfield, George Foreman, etc. Anyways, legend of a guy. Love him. Every week he's got a crazy story about Mr. T or Eddie Murphy or whoever. In fact, if you watch the Bruno versus Tyson documentary, Gary is the guy fighting Tyson, like sparring. When I say he fought him, he was their sparring guy, right? But anyways, who cares about that? I don't know, man. Jake Paul, he's doing big things, and I got a huge amount of respect for him. I know a lot of folks are like, referring to him as a YouTuber. And if you're referring to Jake Paul as a YouTuber, my goodness, I box every day and I love it. And what he's done in a few short years in the ring is just nothing short of insane. And he takes the same, which is often the way. If you want to I've often said this, if you want to get to know somebody, go golfing with them. And it's not about how good they are or their golfing prowess. It's about the manner in which they go about it. Just naturally talented, cheating, kicking the ball out, not giving a rat's backside, whatever. You would generally see that. And the same way that he does, he is, undertaking, business is the way that he's undertaken business. And yeah, I think he's ruthlessly talented. And by the way, that's, Kendall Jenner. I don't know, like she's like 21 years old and a billionaire. You might say that, married into a fancy family, yada, 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 but you just don't become a billionaire without having your wits about you, being very smart, etc. Even like Kim Kardashian, who I think like they're sisters, right? Like half sisters or something. Like Kim Kardashian had a sex tape come out, and you probably don't even remember that, right? Although you'd heard about it, you don't even remember it because she had a sex tape come out and she just kept cranking and ran right over the top of it. Whereas Pamela Anderson let the sex tape that came out with her and the what's his name, Tommy Lee, right? And he let that crush her. He let it crush her career, and to a great degree, I think she let it, kind of crush her experience as a you know what I mean, as a mom. But by the way, full props to Pamela Anderson, by the way. Good old fashioned Canadian. Actually, our buddy Brent dated her back in the day, by the way. Road Dog, you might not know that, when she was a bud girl. But anyways, but she let the sex tape thing own her. And it appears as though it still does. If you watched, maybe sadly, whatever, but I watched the Pamela documentary, and she's talking about it, and she's, as much as came out of her lips, that it's ruined her career, right? So Jake Paul, and by the way, he's got a brother Logan who's also doing pretty impressive things. They're a bit of a gruesome twosome. The loudest booze shoots, the loudest booze come from the cheapest seats. That's what Babe Ruth said, right? Translation: people who invest the least will have the most to say about you, right? So again, what Babe Ruth was saying is, in the cheap seats, that's where all the the booze and the heckles come out. So Jake Paul's critics know nothing about him and his brands, his social media prowess. It's the same. We said this recently on the podcast, but like the people, or maybe it was an email, can't remember, the people that Joe Rogan's biggest critics don't listen to Joe Rogan, right? Tony Robbins' harshest critics have never seen, or never been to a Tony Robbins event. I get Noah Taylor Swift, right? I get 9-year-old daughter. She loves Taylor Swift. Her harshest critics don't know anything about her talents as a musician, her songwriting ability, right? Like she is an A to Z talent all day long. Her harshest critics know nothing about what I just said, right? So Jake Paul, his harshest critics, and the people that are coming after him and referring to him as a YouTuber still, like they just don't, what I mean? They don't know enough about him. I don't even know if I'm qualified to say that, but I got full props. And there was a time not long ago where I was like, who is this guy and what the heck's going on? And, rather than being the guy booing, I did a little bit of homework and had a little bit of a look. And I'm a huge fan, like shoots, what's that saying? This is a quote, not mine, somebody's. When a leader walks on stage, the followers feel intimidated, the snakes feel threatened, and the next leaders feel inspired. Is that it? Like, and again, the next leaders feel inspired, but the snakes feel threatened. And I don't know that everybody's hating on Jake Paul. Could be called a snake, by the way. That would be grossly unfair. But no doubt you'd hopefully get the idea. If you're not willing to take the time to understand a little bit about the guy, and you're throwing shade on him, I just don't, you know what I mean? Like in business, we are business coaches. Our clients are businesses. To think that we can't learn something, I don't care if he's tall, good-looking boxing guy, doing YouTube videos, yada yada yada. Like, or sorry, his age is really what I'm trying to reference there. Like he's a good-looking young guy. Pretty easy to hate on that. If you are taking his age into consideration, you're just not paying attention. Zuckerberg was a very young man when he started Facebook, right? So, and again, and which one, you know what I mean? Like, you as the business coach, your clients, are you becoming the leader, becoming the follower, or, being the snake, quote unquote, right? Like, obviously, we need to be helping our clients be smart enough to look at what he's doing and do big things. Another thing Babe Ruth used to say is, I swing big, and with everything I got, I hit big or I miss, right? So, he was basically trying to live as big as he can. Boring people lack critics. So if you're in a big room, what does that mean? The person with the most critics in the room is likely the most successful in the room, right? Is that you? Are you becoming that? Are your clients becoming that? Are you even acknowledging that? Or are you playing small to avoid the critics, right? Babe Ruth would say, play big, swing for the fences. So, and okay, shoot. So that's my opinion, and I'm just trying to bring this back. It's remember, as a business coach, somebody who's guiding business owners, it's what you do next that matters. And I want you to capitalize next, bold it, italicize it. So the question is, what are you doing next? Right. And I'll tell you, Jake Paul, he's not hitting singles. The guy's swinging for the fences and doing what Babe Ruth said he did. He's playing big. So, and many aren't doing anything, right? And they get surprised when they experience frustration. So, what are you doing next? And do you even have a plan for what's next? Do your clients have a plan for what's next? Obviously, that's where you come in, strategizing and help them with that way forward. But most people just go around and around in circles, shoot. So Jake Paul, I think he's doing big things, shoots, and I'm a fan.
So funny as you're going there, it's sort of kind of reminded me a little bit of yesterday's sermon that I was listening to, where he was saying, after the fear has run its course in you, it then turns to discouragement. And I thought that was rather interesting, right? Because you're talking about going out and doing all these things. And why do people not do what they're meant to do or become the big names or whatever that they really could become? Because we've all seen glimpses or had the feeling that we're, capable of so much more. The quotes that I got here, which I think you might appreciate, your discouragement can track back to the discussions you have with yourself at a soul level. If you're careful of what you let into your mind, you can be courageous.
So what you say to yourself when you're by yourself matters. What you say to yourself about yourself when you're by yourself matters.
Because it's the whole thing. We let our feelings at times get in the way, but and sometimes we have challengers or things or haters or the people booing from the stands.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes I wrote down from yesterday is, it's not what you're facing or feeling, but rather what you're saying to yourself that's holding you back.
So there you go.
Love that.
I like it. What was the soul one? Just say the soul one again. I think it was the first one.
This is where was it now? Oh boy. I'll have to find it, bud. But
Okay.
It's basically what you're saying to yourself at a soul level, right? Your discouragement can track back to the discussions you're having with yourself at a soul level.
Boom. There we go. Nice. Love it. Well done, Shoots. Well done.
That's pretty much what it is, right? But much like anything, if you go through a cycle of creation and building, this is my natural pivot to every business seems to have a cycle and sort of, I guess they call it what the business arc of the average business. Can you go into that a little bit, because I think that's sort of an interesting conversation that leads there as well, because we talk about, like, I can't imagine a guy like, say, Jake Paul, right? Love him or hate him. Well, he went about his business and he knew that he had to do certain things to get to where he is today, much like the average business owner. Wait for it, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, they go through the same. Right. So can you kind of run us through what that average sort of arc of a business looks like?
Nice. Actually, you know what? So last week, hope you enjoyed Family Day. Shoots. Well done.
Thanks,
well
buddy.
done. So I went through something. Just one of the questions was I just thought about it afterwards, and I was like, I got to go back on that one. So I was just talking about, why, like, I'm not the CEO of my own company to do. And I kind of went into, I was trying to, educate, let's just say, and give like a frame. But what's very important is, I understand my strengths, my weaknesses, and not to mention the season that I'm in as an entrepreneur and, a family man, etc. But I just simply put, I have got somebody, Pat Bell, who's worked with us for a long time, and he's just a better choice. So to say, to not have that in there would be, that's just somebody better than me for the position. The end. So there you go. Little FYI, but quick. So the arc. Okay, that's good. We've covered this in the past, but this is a beauty. So here, let's just go with using a chiropractic clinic is good. This could be dentist, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, right? The guy's 30 years old. He decides to go it on his own. And then at 35, he's 5 years into it. Normally takes 5 years to really, get something cranking in business, right? It's a 101. At 35, he's got it cranking. And then he hits 40, hits 45. Well, let's say maybe he gets to 50 and he goes, you know what? I got to scale this back a little bit. Like my kids are getting a bit older. We've got the place at the ski resort or we got the cottage. I'd like to be spending some more time there. I want to spend some more time with my wife. I want to create memories with my kids because that's what you'll often hear, right? And they're getting a little bit older, and I know that soon they're going to be off to going away to college and just not wanting to hang out with dad, not wanting to hang out with mom, not wanting to hang out with their parents, right? So what do? They scale back their commitments at their chiropractic clinic, at their business. And then 55, they're like really scaling it back. And, maybe the kids are out or well and truly on their way out. And then they're golfing, 2 days a week, working 3 days a week. And then they hit 60. And what do? They go, you know what? I got to sell this thing. Okay. So picture that as a bell curve. Well, what happens at the age of 60? They're selling a business that's operating 3 days a week. Right. So I'll let you decide if that's going to get full scale value, if that's going to get value. The answer, hard no. So if that's the problem, what's the solution? So you're 30, you get cranking, 35, you're cranking it. At 40, 45, find a 30-year-old that looks just like you. Okay. And then what you do is you bring that person in and they basically start building the business with and for you. Right. And then basically you're 45 and then you give them milestones or you say, look, write a check of this size, or once you hit $1 million in billing, you're going to get 10% of your company. And basically you're now at 45 with a 30-year-old looks just like you who's become a business owner. Well, I tell you, when you make somebody a business owner, you don't need to cut them a new set of keys. You give them a hockey helmet and they'll open the door in the morning with their head. Right? Ha ha ha. Way of saying they're going to be super jacked up, super motivated. And by the way, they're going to be trying to get rich off of 10% to your company. Right? And then by the way, you might want to bring in a second person. And now you own 80% of your company. Two people own 10 each. And then there might be a bit of a bidding war. Like one of them wants to take over when you hit 50, 55, 60. And by the way, you might want to retain 25% ownership. Talked about this last week. Again, CEOs aren't the ones. The richest people in the world are venture capitalists. They are investors, not CEOs. So anyway, so think of that as when they start cranking that business, part of their job description, say taking 20% of their time, is finding somebody that looks just like them, but 10 to 15 years younger, to come in and jack things up big time, so that now I can start golfing 3 times a week, but my business isn't going to feel it in any way because I'm just one of the guys. And by the way, you could step away entirely and have those 2 young bucks owning 10% running the entire show, assuming that you are bringing in the right individuals. And then maybe that's a different conversation whereby if I'm like a really hot salesperson, I need somebody in operations. And if I'm really good at operations, then I want to bring in somebody who's a hot salesperson, right? Like you want to bring in complementary skills. So anyway, so think of that as the arc of a business. And again, it's shaped a lot like a bell curve. So that's something to think about. So there you go. And then by the time when you do sell it, you should be getting full value, only far more because of the manner in which you went about it. So that same framework works. In fact, a construction company guy starts on his own, builds a team of 4, right? Starts really killing it, start making some money, gets a second team of 4, a third team of 4. He gets to a fourth team of 4. He's got 16 staff. Guess what happened? A couple jobs go belly up. He loses, loses his backside. She loses backside in a couple of those deals. And they end up going from 4 to 8 to 12 to 16 back to 4. Happens with ridiculous predictability because they don't follow something like what I just described. Remember, the biggest company, Bezos does not own 100% of Amazon, clearly. Musk does not own 100% of Tesla. They own a lot. I think Bezos owns 10%. Zuckerberg, I think actually no, Bezos owns 12% of Amazon. Zuckerberg owns 10% of Facebook. And I think Musk owns 10% of Tesla. Just whatever, the numbers are like that, right? But you don't need to own 100% of your company. Your clients don't need to own 100% of their company. So there you go, Shoots. That's my answer. And yeah, the arc of the average business, very important. Glad you asked.
So speaking of I guess arc and sort of the evolution and growth of a business and that bell curve as you talked about. But so I know we spend a lot of time, Carl, talking about, going and getting your first few clients, right? Getting to 10, right? You always say, look, man, when you're at 10 clients, you're going to be busier than you think. But I wanted to take that one step further, if you don't mind, and that is because you mention it a lot that you're going to be pretty busy at 10 clients, and you're going to be making a pretty good living, by the way. But for those people that want to take that leap, right? And you want to go from 10 to 20 clients, like there's obviously some tactical and some real sort of strategic sort of advice I'm sure you could give. But I almost want to take it back to the simple question of like, how do you do it without losing your freaking mind? Because man, oh man, right? Like that's a big step. Like that's a whole new world. So can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So just basically go to 20 clients without becoming so busy that you can't keep up and you're just feel like you're spinning your wheels, working 24/7, building everybody's company but yours, right? Is that kind of the answer to the question?
Pretty much, right? Because look at it this way. It's easy for someone to come in to the business and be like, oh, I'm going to get 50 clients or 30 clients. Like, no, you're not. Not if you don't do it in a smart way, right? But yeah, so how would you go from 10 to 20 without just losing yourself and your mind in the process?
Yep, I like that. And again, anybody new here, like you'd think that, oh, I look after 20 clients easily. And by the way, you can if you're organized and whatnot. But let me tell you, you will be busier with 20 clients than you probably realize, just because you get 20 you get 20 businesses you're helping grow. Just think about that. You know what I mean? Kind of. What am I trying to say? Holistically, is that the right word? Like, you know what I mean? Just hover over top of that and you're going to be busy. So 3 baskets, you got lead gen, you got conversion, you got fulfillment. You want to build a 7-figure coaching company, you need to do those 3 baskets. When somebody thinks about hitting 7 figures or getting more clients they can keep up with, let's say, fulfillment will stop you far more than lead gen. Lead gen is, there's a scientific kind of manner to it. But anyway, so believe me, fulfillment will stop your big coaching company from growing far more than lead gen will. So think about like maybe one of the things you would do is you think about going more into a niche, right? Because like if you had 19 clients and then you got a 20th and they were all mobile dog groomers, they were all chiropractors, they were all dentists, they were all butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, the 20th client, if they were all mobile dog groomers, the 20th client, if you learned anything from them, it would add to the other 19, right? Versus if you had 20 clients and one was a restaurant, one was a dentist, one was doing this, one was doing that, landscaping, etc. Everybody was doing something different. Then you could learn something from your 20th client, but it doesn't apply to the other 19, right? So think of it as like a bit of a network effect, right? Whereby if I was going to have 20 clients, and they don't all, like say I could have 10 in one niche, and then 3, and then the outliers doing whatever he's doing, right? You know what I mean? So if you have more clients in a niche, that is going to make it easier to look after more clients. That's what I'm getting at. Like what we have, we have well over 1,000 clients as I'm here. Well, let's just say we had 1,000 hard. Well, the 1,001st client would be really, really easy to support, really easy to guide. And if we learn something from him or her, the other 1,000 would also be able to benefit, right? So that's like a bit of a network effect. You're going to have to be organized and you're going to have to operate in a conscientious way. Remember, if you could, one skill to determine successful business operator over all else is their ability to operate in a conscientious way. So conscientious, just stop and think, go slow to go fast, etc. Like just thinking about things in a conscientious way, a framework. So, and by the way, you will need staff. That's another thing. If you want to get 20 clients and you want to do it without, kind of losing your mind, you want to you're going to have to get a staff member at some stage, right? But what do most people say? They say, Carl, I'll get a staff member. I agree, Carl. I really need it. I need a staff member. I need a lead generator. I need a converter. I need somebody to do the coaching for me. And they say, I'm almost, when I'm ready is what they'll say. And then I say, straight up from Tony Robbins, but it's reasons come first, answers come second. You're never going to be ready. Hire them, and then magically you'll become busier. Good things will start to happen. They'll start paying their way. It'll be really good. So I encourage you to hire somebody before you're ready. And magically, I remember when we hired our first software developer, we decided to take him on full. When we decided to take him on full time, this was obviously years and years and years ago. But we were like a little bit nervous, like, gosh, do we have enough to keep him busy? Well, literally from day one, week one, certainly quarter one, but day one, he never had less than like 5 days of work to get done in one day. You know what I mean? Like it just automatic, like it just happened. And we look back, it's common internally, we kind of laugh about, do you remember when? Ha ha ha. So the bottom line is you will also, don't be shy. Like, yeah, hiring 10 people, hiring 25 people, look, not for the faint of heart. Hiring one person is a 101. And really, I don't even, so, just influencers online, right? Like the guy who's on Facebook really making noise and has his Lambo and the doors up, etc. Generally speaking, this is an influencer and they don't have a real business, right? Very common for them to have, no staff members or very, very few. Like they got like an executive assistant and we're referring to that as a staff member. So, if you want to be legit, you got to hire somebody, and that's okay. It's not good. They're going to take some pressure off of you. They're going to help you. They're going to help you grow. If that really makes you nervous, there's so much. It's like the person who doesn't meditate because they don't feel like it's for them is the person that will get the most out of meditation. The person that doesn't go to yoga because they don't feel like it's for them is the person that will get the most out of yoga. The person who doesn't read the book is the person that's going to get the most out of the book. So it's the same here. If you're worried about hiring a staff member and that kind of makes you throw up in your mouth a little bit with nervousness and anxiety, you're going to grow so much. It's going to be so good for you. So, not to mention we have a coaching portal with our software that like manages everything with and for your client. All the files that you're sharing back and forth, there's messaging in there. Like you had a client who like canceled and then came back in like 1, 2, 3 years. You'll be able to go back into your coaching portal and every conversation, every note, every file you'd share would be housed back there. So look, I think the easiest way to build a great company is to have good clients. And the easiest way to build an outstanding company is to have great clients. Get the idea? What I'm trying to say there, you want to take somebody from good to great, from great to outstanding. Attract good clients and you're going to have a great coaching company. So how do you do that? You got to find yourself a hungry audience, right? Like, so you want to go from, 10 to 20 clients and you want to grow your company. If you've got 10 bad clients, that's going to be really hard. If you've got 10 excellent clients, you say jump, they say how high. It's going to be a very different dynamic. Okay. So get yourself good clients. How do you get great clients? You become better than great business coach. You need to go above and beyond, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to find a hungry audience though. It's like Elvis Presley earned something like $30 million last year, which is probably not too bad for a guy that passed away, 40 years ago. Right. But why? How? Elvis knew his audience and he catered to them in an outstanding, unbelievable way, despite having, and imagine the critics that Elvis had back in the day, right? Couldn't even imagine. I mean, they, couldn't even imagine how bad it was. And he didn't give a rat's backside. He just kept pumping. So but the bottom line is you need a hungry audience. So if you were selling hamburgers and I said you could have any single advantage in the marketplace, what advantage is it that you'd ask for, right? Like what would your answer be? And your answer generally, I'll give you a second to answer it, but what is it that you think, what is it that you want, right? It'd be like the secret sauce. Do you want to have the best burger in the city and the state and the country? Do you want a powerful brand like McDonald's? Do you want a great manager to manage day-to-day operations so that it's like a really well-oiled machine and your business is operating in a really conscientious way, like I said a minute ago? But the answer is simply what I started with here, and it's a hungry audience, right? It's not an accident that there's a food court in every shopping mall in North America and no doubt all over the world. And the only time it's not busy is when the mall closes, right? Um, People are hungry when they're shopping. So the best hamburgers and a promotion for free burgers at the mall will fail miserably if that mall is catering to vegetarians or a full of vegetarians because of where it is or what have you, right? Like you could give away free hamburgers and it would fail miserably if they were vegetarians, right? So in other words, a great marketing message will miss if it's delivered to the wrong audience. And as a frame, you go, okay, so what are, for my client, what would be defined as the market segments and what would be defined as finding the ideal client? Well, a few ways to do it, but like geography, right? So just think zip codes, think postal codes, search the internet, drive through an area, do a customer survey. Marketing is nothing more than asking people what they want and then delivering it, right? Like marketing is asking what you want and then delivering it, right? So you got to find an audience that's hungry for what it is you offer. Find an audience, sorry, that's hungry for what your clients offer, right? Like a great example, one that we've talked about at different times on the podcast, is like a mistake would be a carpet cleaning company promoting heavily in an area where they are mostly rented houses and apartments, right? People renting do not worry about cleaning carpets the same way that people that own do, right? Know that that's a bit of a 101. Or how about a realtor finds an area near the water and then sells real estate by farming postal and zip code and getting heavily involved in the area and using like a tagline, the water view girl, right? The water view girl. Clearly, water view girl doesn't sell $300,000 condos. That's what the marketing material needs to look like aesthetically. It needs to be, really fancy photos and really good art, architecture and whatnot, not, like condos. And by the way, she promotes herself as the water view girl. What you may or may not know is that she will get chased by that market, the $300,000 condos as well. Ideally, she's getting chased by the waterfront properties if she markets it properly. But I can tell you that people with a $300,000 condo love the idea of the person that's only selling multi-million-dollar waterfront listings doing their house, right? How do I relate that to a business coach? If you promote it, I can help you franchise your company. No doubt you can see how that would attract a slightly higher caliber of client, right? The little guys with no hope of franchising are going to be significantly more attracted to you, right? So that's again how similar, like a marketing message could work pretty well for you. You start attracting higher level client. We've talked all the time about going to BNI and chamber meetings. I won't bore you with that. Again, you want to go to the high end golf course. You want to go to the oil and gas club. You want to go to the high end places, not the low end places. So there's that. Speaking of which, demographics. So first you got geography, then you got demographics. So demographics, like you got to collect information on your ideal clients, and you're going to be able to identify measurable factors that the majority of them, so let's say affluent, have in common, right? Like golfers, do you find that they have something in common, or do affluent people like to golf? What about new mums? What about chiropractors, right? Like the affluent folks who I would imagine would be attractive to you and your clients. Affluent people like to play polo, golf, and tennis more than they like to drink beer and play softball in many areas. Not always. You got to go and do some homework here, but I'd be amazed if I'm not pretty close in your area, right? And they also go to certain restaurants. They join, specific groups, and they go to predictable locations like expensive restaurants versus McDonald's. And they do go to McDonald's as well. But I'll tell you that the guy that's going to McDonald's all the time probably is not going to the super, super high end restaurant. So this is the types of places you want to go. This is the type of places you want to be hanging out. In fact, back in the day, Road Dog, I used to do a presentation on the 10 biggest mistakes coaches make when marketing themselves online. And rule or mistake number one was that coaches spend all their time in Facebook groups with other coaches, right? What you got to do is you got to hang out in Facebook groups with your ideal clients. Again, with dentists, with cosmetic surgeons, with butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. Go into those Facebook groups. Don't spending your time with your peers to a degree is good. Spending the majority of your time in Facebook, to be groups with your peers is idiotic, right? So once you identify, where to find them, marketing becomes 100% easier because you know who you're talking to, right? Um, so there'd be demographics, there would be geography, and then there's association targeting. Like Facebook groups, I just said that, but identify Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, trade associations, business associations. There'll be some community organizations of some shape with your ideal clients that they belong to, right? And join those groups, become actively involved, and intimately understand the challenges and concerns of that group. How do you do it? Asking questions, one mouth, two ears, listening on your own Facebook. So many times people, like, one of the things you want to learn to do in a Facebook group, or not so much a Facebook group, but like with Facebook and the posts, is read all the comments. The real magic is often not in the post, but it's in the comments. Spend some time, because those are presumably your ideal clients, literally talking to you about their challenges, about their issues, and certainly offering plenty of solutions. So that's if you want to build a great coaching company, you got to get great coaching clients. Again, if you've got a coaching company, you got 10 clients that are all difficult in different niches. We don't need to be a rocket scientist to be able to look at the fulfillment basket 3 of your company and say, look, you're going to have some challenges. So pick better targets. Again, think polo, golf, tennis over the beer drinking softball crowd. Not that there's anything wrong with the beer drinking softball crowd, and I may or may not play a little bit of softball with a beer in my mouth. But anyway, so everything there is going to make things insurmountably easier. So shoots, you want to get 20 clients, get 20 really good clients is what I was trying to say. But before you defined what a great client is, and there's a good chance that they haven't. So there you go. What do you think, Shoots?
Right there. Listen, we're going to wrap up here in just a few, but I just wanted to point that you make a very good point there of just the where are you doing your targeting. So from an online marketer, dude, I see the same thing all the time, right? Like, people are like, oh, I want to target HVAC installers or whatever, right? So what do they go on? What do they put as their target? HVAC. Do you think that HVAC installers are like making sure that they know that Facebook knows that they're interested in that? They're interested in, like, what are they interested in, right? So when you're like, you talk about the affluent, like, are you going to type in, I'm going to target, my target audience is the affluent? No, you're going to target high-end watches, high-end cars, like all the places that they would hang out, the yacht club, right? That type of thing. And that's where I find it so fascinating how people, especially with Facebook, will complain about, well, these ads aren't working. It's like, well, no, you just didn't do your homework on your audience. But you've always stated that, right? Like, how many people are actually spending even 10 minutes before a call checking out somebody's social profiles, go to their LinkedIn page, go to their Facebook page, see what they like, see what they're interested in? Like, isn't it just mind bending to you how that's not happening, Karl?
I think what can be accomplished 10 minutes of preparation in a conscientious way prior to your call can literally be gobsmacking. Yeah, like 10 minutes, right? How you can fast forward the conversation that you're about to have could just blow you away. So that's like Tony Robbins. I think I said this last week, but it's like Tony Robbins. He gets a private group of folks together, and he's like, "Do you want the secret? Do you want the secret?" And he'll always tell you to prepare. It's really important. The reason his book is so good is because he prepared, right? But then, like, he had this private room, and he said, "Do you want the secret? Do you want the secret?" And he screamed the word. This is a very tight group, right? And he screamed the word "prepare" to the point where it nearly lifted the roof off of the building. Spit came flying out of his mouth 2 rows deep, and he was just like, prepare. And it's just, this is it. So what? Like, build what you're describing, right? A client avatar. Like what, do your clients like locally? What are the places that they're going? What are the places that they're doing? And by the way, when you work out that they're playing polo, when you work out that they're playing tennis, when you work out that they're playing golf, but you're like, I don't play polo, I don't play tennis, I don't play golf. But you know what? Go to those places. And then maybe there's, I don't know, like, go to the places and have a bit of a look around and, just get a bit of a feel for what your avatar is experiencing, get a little bit of a feel for, the kind of people, like how are they dressed, what kind of cars are they driving. One of the things, again, you will find they're very affluent often. Yes, they drive Rolls Royces and that sort of stuff, but generally speaking, no, they drive a nice BMW, like a 3 Series BMW, but they're not driving around as Rolls Royces. It's a general rule, right? And by the way, depending upon where you live and where you do live, you might find that there's a lot of Lambos and Rolls Royces when the affluent at the polo joint. But generally speaking, what you're going to find is that a lot of people that are pretty damn normal, ripping around. So getting 2 ears, 1 mouth, get in there and mingle amongst them. And, I don't know. That's what you got to do. You got to get in there and mingle amongst them. So
mingle amongst them. There you go, folks. That's like a Carlism right there. I think that's pretty good. Pretty good. You're right though, right? The whole thing. The other thing I was just going to quickly add in is, especially when people are like, well, I don't know what to post online. I don't know what my for social media. I don't know what to post on Facebook. I don't know what to post on LinkedIn. Well, you've always said, sit down and write out 50 things that you can do to help a specific business.
Yeah.
There's your next 50 posts, and just add value, right? Do that, right? Like imagine you do that. So every 50 days, you got to sit down and come up with 50 new ideas. And guess what? Odds are good. You could probably do it every 100, because if you start back at number 1, by the time you hit 50, they've likely forgotten it. And maybe you can add to it at this time based on whatever comments you got inside of that. Just like you said, Karl, there's some magic in what you said there of read the comments. They're literally using the language that they're telling you how they want to be spoken to.
And how they're speaking. Yes, exactly. You say it straight back. Like a sales secret on steroids is that they say, like you're thinking, look, what these people really want is a vacation. But they say, I want to take my wife, Sally, Jamie, and Tom to Disneyland. You say, what was her name? Sally. Sally, but the 3 names I just used, Sally, Joe, and whatever the other poor kid's name is. But use their names and use their exact language back to them, right?
And you know what? So if you're like Karl, give out name tags at the beginning of the meeting.
I don't know. How did I just forget that? But you know what? Actually, on an important note, and another thing though, when you meet somebody, and again, this person is affluent, this person is broke, frankly, this person is in the middle class, quote unquote. This person is an entrepreneur. This person works for the government. This person's a nurse, a doctor, a firefighter. Everyone, including you listening, 3 things. You're afraid of something, you love something, and you lost something. And it is insanely powerful. Like, when you're networking, there's certain ways that you want to go about it, but going in and talking about business too much and being too business centric, as a general rule is, not, and that will appeal to a certain individual, by the way, but that would appeal to like a 10% individual, not the 90%. And if you wanted to really get in good and you wanted to network at a very high level, be thinking about that. Like how I wrote an email a long time ago about this, where I met a guy. We actually first, we got to the, we were at beaches, right? Like a nice, family resort to do. And I'm sitting up at the bar and there's a guy there, struck up a conversation. I think my wife then took off. So it's just me and him. And at the end of the day, it turns out that the guy had incurable cancer. And he had to go in once a month to get blood transfusions. And it's just the most unbelievable story. I'm still friends with him, like to this day. We keep in touch. And just a really cool guy, Chuck. Anyways, I wrote this email, and I literally just, talked about Chuck. But I was just like, if I didn't go deep and I didn't ask questions and I wasn't interested, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have found that out. You know what I mean? And that's not, I'm trying to put a crown on my head or like I'm the world's most caring, guy up at the bar. But that, you know what I mean? Like rather than me talking, I'm more interested in the person that I'm talking to. Right. And again, my entire life and my entire career, is basically coaching, which is really influencing in a positive way. Well, the more that I know about the guy at the bar, the 9-year-old kid playing on our hockey team, a friend of my wife's, a friend of mine from back in the day, a new friend, the more that I know about them, the more that I can, the easier it is and the better that I can influence them in a positive way, right? That's coaching 101. So I think you're trying to get a tidbit of information. If you use that as a frame, is that they're afraid of something, love something, and have lost something. And if you could answer those 3 questions about an individual after getting to know them for a short period of time, you would be able to, you'd be able to influence this person at a very high level in a good way. So
what do they say, Karl? Like if you let people talk 90% of the conversation, they always leave the conversation feeling like they just, wow, that person is amazing. And that person's, a really good. This is exactly why you always leave all of our conversations feeling like you just had the greatest conversation with me. It's great.
It's it, Shoots.
You do 90% of the talking. There it is. Just like the podcast, a true reflection.
That's it. Yeah, I know. But no, thinking is nothing more than asking and answering questions to yourself. So again, asking questions and then having them answer. Like if you meet Tony Robbins and you speak to him for 10 minutes, and again, whether, you love Tony Robbins, you hate Tony Robbins, look, you'd be crazy not to look at Tony Robbins and think, okay, there's something here to be learned. Well, you listen to him talk. If you spoke to him for 10 minutes, he would do 10% of the talking, you would do 90%, and his 10% would be questions. Again, if you listen to Tony Robbins talk, basically it's a series of questions. He's just asking, he's just directing your thinking. He's talking in questions at a very high level. So there you go. So I use that as a frame. I think that's super powerful, Shoots.
And there you go. Like that right there. So many nuggets there today, bud. Appreciate that. So everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. I hope you got just as many nuggets out of that as I did. From the man himself, the king of the Caribbean, the baby oil sun tanning king of the Caribbean, Karl Bryan. Again, if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you just want more information on that software that Karl was talking about earlier, or just want to subscribe to his daily email list, which again, nuggets every single day, go to focus.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share, like, rate, do all the things to make sure that hopefully we'll continue to climb up those charts. And that is it for another week, folks. Remember, progress equals happiness. See you in the next episode, everybody. Take care.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.